You've made it back to She Journeys in Purple. Welcome back. I am so glad you're here. On Sundays, I talk about my journey to wholeness. And this Sunday, I want to start with something I've been sitting with for a while now. But while I'm doing that, and I've already put on my nightly vitamin C toner mask because I'm going to be doing my face care while having this conversation with you. This thing that I've been sitting with for a while, I had to be honest with before I could even begin to talk about wholeness. And it is this: we were all born into something. Some of us are born into a legacy, some into love. Some of us are born into stability and safety. And some of us were born into a story already in motion, written by people who came before us. People who loved the best they could with what they had, and people who carried more than they were ever allowed to name. This was my story. You see, I was born into a family of women who were strong, but that strength came with a cost. But no one ever taught them they were allowed to put the weight down. No one ever told them that feeling was not a weakness, that needing help was not failure, that their emotional needs were not an inconvenience. So they did what they knew to do. They kept moving. They kept giving. These things were the very things that were passed down to me. There's a scripture that I've thought about a lot on this journey. Proverbs 22:6 says, "Train up a child in the way they should go, and when they are old, they will not depart from it." And I used to read this as a promise. But the older I got, I realized that this was a warning, because training happens whether we intend for it to or not. Children are trained by what they see, by what is modeled, by what is normalized. Some of us were trained into silence, in survival, in don't ask questions, just keep moving. And that was the way, and we didn't depart from it. We carried it straight into our adult lives. You see, in our home were unspoken rules. You see, we didn't talk about depression. We talked about discipline. We didn't discuss boundaries. We discussed obedience. You see, emotional needs, they weren't exactly forbidden, but they were definitely inconvenient. And inconvenience in our house was treated like rebellion. So I learned early. I learned how to shrink, and I learned how to quiet my questions, how to edit my emotions before they ever made it out of my mouth. I learned how to perform, how to please, how to hustle for approval that just always felt out of reach. And eventually, I confused performance with my identity. I didn't know I was doing it. That's the thing no one tells you about generational patterns. Nor do they knock on the door and say, "Hey, I am the thing that's going to shape your entire world view." They just show up in habits, in relationships, in the way you respond when someone disappoints you, in the way you shrink in rooms when you should be standing tall, in the way you keep saying yes when everything in you is screaming no. The Bible talks about this too. The idea of inherited patterns running deeper than we even realize. You see, Exodus 20:5 tells us that the patterns are of the parents and are visited among the children to the third and fourth generation. Now, I know that can sound heavy, and honestly, it is. You see, I don't read that as condemnation. I read that as clarity. Because if something can be passed down to 3 and 4 generations, it didn't start with me. And it doesn't have to end with me either. Someone has to be the one who stops it. I can still remember the moment I realized I had no idea who I was without the pressure to prove something. I had become so accustomed to being strong for someone else when I did not even realize that I needed strength myself. For years, I was living from a script that I never wrote. Maybe you know that feeling. Maybe you looked up one day and realized that the life you're living was shaped by more of what you inherited than by what you chose. Maybe you found yourself repeating a pattern you swore you never would. Maybe you felt the weight of carrying something you can't even name. If that's you, sis, you are not alone and you are not broken. You are becoming aware, and awareness is where everything begins to change. And because here's what I've learned: you can't heal what you can't name. You can't release what you can't acknowledge. You can't build a new legacy while you're still trying to live out the old one. For a long time, I believed that by acknowledging the pain, I was dishonoring the people who raised me, that facing my truth was a form of betrayal. But then I found this in John 8:32. And you shall know the truth, and the truth shall set you free. Not shame you, not expose you, free you. Not truth doesn't dishonor the people who raised you. Truth dignifies your survival. It gives you language for what you lived through. And it gives you the freedom to write something different for what comes next. God didn't meet me with condemnation when He started showing me these patterns. He didn't say, shame on you for living the way you were taught. He brought clarity, He brought compassion, and then He whispered something that stopped me in my tracks. You were born into battle, but you were never meant to fight alone. That echoes what Exodus 14:14 tells us. The Lord will fight for you. You need only to be still. I have been fighting so hard for so long in my own strength. God was simply saying, baby, that was never your job. God wants you to hold on to that today. Whatever you were born into, whatever patterns, whatever pain, whatever silence you inherited, that is not the final word on your life. It is the starting point, and starting points can be rewritten because Jeremiah 29:11 reminds us that God's plans for us are for good, for a future or hope, not a future defined by what we came from, but one shaped by where He is taking us. But next week, we're going to go deeper into what it actually looks like to identify the battle you were born into and to take the first real steps towards naming it. Because, sis, that's where the healing begins. But for today, sit with this question. Write it down if you need to. What did I inherit that I was never meant to carry? Just sit with it. Let it breathe. You don't have to have the answer today. You just have to be willing to ask yourself the question. Thank you for being here. And if this conversation met you today, share it with someone who needs it. Subscribe so that you're here every Sunday. And remember, you are not what you were born into. You are what you choose to become. Subscribe so you don't miss what's coming. And walk with me in this journey of purple.